Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Udita. So from my last calligraphy video, some of you requested that I do all of the alphabet. So this video is just that. I'm going to show you how to do all of the letters in modern script with brush pens, and you can do them with any art material that you might have. If you want to learn the basics of calligraphy, or just you have a pencil and want to learn to do calligraphy with a pencil, I already have some videos, you can check those out. And also, every art supply that you see in this video is linked down in my description box, so you can go and check those out from there and buy them if you want to. So I make art and lifestyle related videos. Subscribe to my channel if you like to see more videos, and like this video and leave a comment down below if you think it was helpful. And let's get into the video.
So first things first, if you haven't watched the previous videos about the basics, this is the first step when you do calligraphy to know your margins. So the first line is always the ascender and the last is always the descender. Then we have the base in the middle, and above that there's the waistline. Okay. So now if you don't know the strokes, you should definitely check out the basics video. So I'm just going to use the strokes that I talked about earlier and make these alphabets, and I'm starting with the baseline, going towards the waistline, then coming back and forth, and that's how I make an A. So I'm not going to mark any more margins now because I'm very familiar with them. You can obviously go and make your margins and mark them properly. So I'm not marking those margins. I'm just going to write my B, and you can follow along and practice with me. And if you are not already practicing, pick up your pen and let's go. What I'm thinking while I'm writing these letters is that I have a baseline and I start from my baseline, I touch the waistline. If the alphabet doesn't need to go towards the center or descender, I just start from the baseline and touch the waistline and then work my way through those margins. And you can always imagine those margins if you don't like marking your paper. And also, if you are facing some kind of problem about how I'm going thick or thin in these letters, you can definitely go out and check the basics. I've taught everything in that video about how to add weights and everything. Just go, I'll link the video in the description box and the card. Just go and learn the basics first. Only then you can be truly good at calligraphy and those alphabets. You can copy all you want, that's totally upon you, but the thing is, if you don't learn the basics, then you won't really be able to understand the maths that goes into calligraphy. Okay, enough of me rambling about the basics. So these are all the alphabets and how I do them. So you can always come back to this video if you want to see how to write an F or an H or an G. This video is always here and you can always come back to it. So this is me writing a G if I'm truly staying in the margins, but you can always take the liberty to go out when you are making art pieces and practicing calligraphy, because that way you have more flow and it looks natural and not so symmetrical. And my style is always a little bit of bouncy modern calligraphy, and you can definitely do that if you like some fun. And when you feel you are in control of the margins, and then you can just let go and be free and have fun and feel amazing doing calligraphy. And here for the eye, I'm just going to show you the different ways to put the dot on the eye. You can put a small dot or a little circle or just a little bit of hash kind of arrow thingy from the brush. It totally depends on you, it totally depends on your style and what you feel comfortable. You don't have to stick to my style. You can always evolve a new style from your own personality. Your handwriting will evolve eventually, and And for the time being, you can just use my alphabet, I mean the way I write the letters. Okay, back to the letter J. So make sure the loop of the letter J has some gap between it, because without it, it doesn't really look like a J. Now on to the K. For the K, it is not exactly how we write it in cursive language, but because we are adding the weights, we have to give each stroke its due importance. So it looks a little bit of animated, you can say, because it isn't like the normal K we write. It has a little bit of space between every stroke, so that the weights and the thins and the thicks don't look all messed up together. The L is always very satisfying to write, and because it's so easy to write, I like writing it a lot, and that's how you write an L. And the M and N are very similar, obviously, so this is how you write those. O can look messy sometimes, so make sure the thicks are not overlapping each other. See this O, the thicks are overlapping, so it looks messy, and these two, even though they are not the same size, the thins and thicks are overlapping, and that gives it a better look. For P, you can write it with the upper loop or without the loop. It totally depends on you. I mostly like to write it with the loop. It just gives it a more magical look, I guess. You can extend this stroke if you want to, but make sure it is straight, because if it is curved, it just looks limpy, and that's bad. And the letter Q doesn't look good in this little marginalized space, so what you can do while creating an art piece is just give it its freedom and make it a little bit bigger than most of the letters, because that way the shape truly comes out to be precise than the smaller one. Now for the R goes thick and thin a lot many times, so it is bound to get messy. So to stray away from that, make sure the strokes have some space of their own. And if you don't have any idea what I'm talking about thick and thins, you can definitely go back and look at the basics video. So look at these R's. The smaller ones don't look like R. So when writing calligraphy, try that your letters are legible. So the way I write S is a little weirder and it is strange, but believe me, when I write it in combination with other letters, it looks fine. So this is how I write S, and it is not in its respective margin. It is a little below the margin, and it looks fine because, like I told you before, you can animate the letters as long as they look legible. And my S, if you write it this way, make sure the back of the S is a little curved, because if it is straight, it will look like a J. So make sure to give it its curve. The T doesn't really stay in its margin because you don't write it between the base and the baseline. It goes towards the ascender so that it looks bigger than most of the other letters in your word. And U is pretty simple, the basic rules apply, and that's how you write a U. And that's how you write a V, and that it's not so difficult, and I think you can follow along. Now W is nothing but two U's, so the same thing goes here. With writing X, there's always this chance of overlapping the thick with the thick, so don't do that. Make sure whenever you're making the thick stroke, you overlap it with the thin stroke and not the thick stroke, because thick looks a bit messy. And with the wire, you don't have to stick to the margin, you can extend that loop, because that way it looks better. So on to the last letter, Z. It's pretty simple, and that's Z for you. Also, if you're doing these practices, make sure to send me a picture on my Instagram handle, the Udita Singh, and make sure to give me a follow. I respond very quickly there. So see you next time.